Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to my 1 to 20 Premier League table prediction. Now, there's a few questions. Who's going to be relegated? Where are the newly promoted teams going to finish? Who's going to win the league? Who's going to get Champions League? Who's going to just about miss out? These will all be answered in this video with my predictions. Let's get into it. In 20th, I've got a team who have been in the Premier League for quite a long time, but I'm not too sure how they've survived for so long. The manager's done a really good job keeping them in there, but it's Burnley. Now, last season, Chris Wood carried them on their backs. It was basically Chris Wood FC. And an interesting fact about the New Zealand striker is that he has scored 10 plus goals in the last 4 seasons for Burnley. So he really is, he's got a lot of weight on his shoulders, and if they have any chance of surviving, they're going to need him to be doing the same sort of thing again. But I just can't see it. They're not backed in the transfer market ever, and Sean Dyche has basically had to work with zero budget for the last few years. He's done a very good job of keeping them in there, but I think it's finally time that we see Burnley go down to the Championship. I'm putting them 20th place. Into 19th, and it's the team that I originally had in 20th, but I thought about it, and there's one thing separating these two teams. It's that one manager's going to get sacked and one manager's not. 19th place, Watford. Now, I do feel bad for their manager, Xisco. He's got no managerial experience in the Premier League, and he's in a very tough job. As everyone knows, the Watford owners are very trigger happy. I can see him being the first manager sacked this season, and that's why they won't finish bottom, because someone else will come in, have a little honeymoon period, and give them a few points, but it won't be enough for survival. In an attacking sense, they do look quite good with João Pedro, Ismaila Sarr. They are good players. They've just brought in Joshua King on a free transfer as well from Everton. All looks good, but I do worry about them defensively. They were good last season in the Championship defensively, but I don't think their defence is good enough to make the step up this season, and that's why I've got them in 19th place. Now into 18th, and it's a team that I really wanted to see survive, but I just can't see it happening. They are the prime example of a yo-yo team. It's Norwich. Now, as I say, I want them to survive, but I can't see it happening as they don't look clinical enough in attack. They've sold Buendia, who was their best player last season and is a very, very talented player. I'm sure he'll do very well at Aston Villa. But Pucky in the Premier League last season, he had a little purple patch at the start and then he just stopped scoring completely. And as soon as that happened, they dropped straight down the table. Now, Todd Cantwell, they've signed Milo Rashica from Werder Bremen. I think they are both very good creative players, but I just don't think they've got a player clinical enough to take them. They've brought in the young striker Josh Sargent as well from Werder Bremen, but I still don't think it's enough. They need a better striker than that to keep them in the division, and I'm afraid that I can't see them surviving. Brought in Billy Gilmore in midfield, again, another very young player for it to fall on. He's a very good player, or he's an okay player, but I don't think he's enough to keep you in the league, and that's why I've gone for Norwich, just about being relegated in 18th. In 17th, and just about surviving in the league, is a team that at one stage last season were top of the Premier League, but their form after Christmas was awful and they dropped straight down due to so many injuries. Southampton. Now, big talking point, they've lost Ings. Ings is a great Premier League striker and he was so clinical, he knew where the back of the net was, and a lot of their goals came from him. Now that'll be a big miss, but they have brought in Adam Armstrong from Blackpool. Now, Armstrong, he could go either way. He could be very good, first Premier League season, but he is unproven, so I'm not sure he's not going to be able to fill the boots of Ings anytime soon. I do, however, think that Armstrong and Che Adams, it is a strong enough attack to keep them in the league, but I think they might struggle around the pitch defensively. Very thin squad, but James Ward-Prowse is still there as well. There is speculation he could be leaving, but he's still there at the moment. So I think with those 3 players in the squad, they will have enough just to stay up. Into 16th, and it's the third newly promoted team and the one that I'm predicting to finish the highest, Brentford. Now, I think Brentford might finish the highest out of them because, one, they've never been in the Premier League. Two, their team are extremely young and they're going to be hungry to prove themselves at this level. And three, they've got Ivan Toney, who was brilliant in the Championship last season. Now, him with Sergi Canos and Brian and Buemo is a very good looking attack, and I think they will be able to score quite a few goals this season. I think defensively they've got some good players. They've got Pontus Jansson, they've just signed Christopher Aguirre from Celtic, Ethan Pinnock, Rico Henry. They have got a very good balanced squad, and Thomas Frank is a very exciting manager, and I can see them surviving this season. Into 15th now, and it's a team that have somehow managed to finish 13th and 12th in the last two seasons, even though the fans have wanted the manager out and the owners out. It's Newcastle. Now, Steve Bruce, a lot of people don't like him, but he has done a good job there. He's managed to get decent finishes, a lot higher than a lot of people would have expected with what he's been given from Mike Ashley. There's two players in this team, St. Maximin and Callum Wilson. If they stay fit, they'll be fine. If they get injured, they will struggle to stay in the league. As of recording, they haven't signed anyone, but there is an agreement in principle to sign Joe Willock from Arsenal, which I think is a very good signing, as he was great there towards the end of last season, and I'm pretty sure he's still on a 7 or 8 goal scoring run, which is very good and very promising for Newcastle because he won them a lot of points last season. I think they'll be fine, and I think they'll finish 15th. Into 14th now, and it's a team that have got a new manager, and here's the reason I'm not putting them any higher. It's Lage at Wolves. Now, I'm not convinced by him at all. I think Nuno was a great manager, did a brilliant job at Wolves, but the new guy from Roma didn't do a very good job when he was at Roma. I'm not confident in him to get the job done. However, they do have Raul Jimenez back, which is a massive plus, because after that horror challenge with David Luiz, their points started dropping, their goals started dropping. They really struggled to put anything in the back of the net. They weren't clinical at all, even with creative players like Adama Traore and Pedro Neto. But now that they've got Jimenez back with Adama Traore, Pedro Neto, Daniel Podence, the new boy from Barcelona, Trincao, I think they'll be fine in attack. Defensively, they've got good players as well. They've got Semedo, Connor Cody, Johnny is probably back. They've got Willy Bolly as well. But they have lost a very big figure in their defensive line, which is their goalkeeper, Rui Patricio. He was such a leader for them, and he's went off to Roma, and they've brought in the Olympiacos goalkeeper, Jose Sarr. Now, he's got some very big boots to fill, and I'm not sure he will be as good as Patricio, so they will definitely be missing out there. But they've still kept Ruben Neves, even though he's had a lot of speculation this transfer window about possibly going to Arsenal. Moutinho they've still got in the midfield, but he is getting a bit older now, so they might want to look at getting a replacement in for him. But I do think Wolves will be fine this season, and I think the lowest they'll finish is 14th. I think they could finish higher, and they probably will finish higher, but it's just after last season and after losing Nuno, I am a bit worried, and I don't want to put them any higher than this. Into 13th now, and I've put Aston Villa. A lot of people have got them higher in their predictions. I don't see it that way. They've just lost Jack Grealish. He was Mr. Aston Villa. He's been there since he was a kid. And I think the atmosphere around the club, around the fans and in the dressing room is just going to be a bit down. Now, they've signed Emi Buendia, they've signed Leon Bailey. Buendia was player of the Championship last season. Very good player. Very good signing as well. Leon Bailey, explosive winger. Very good at set pieces, free kicks especially. But I'm just not sure that Villa are going to be better off now. Don't think they'll be able to improve on their 11th place finish from last season. Defensively, a lot of Villa fans were saying last season that Konsa is better than Mings, and I see it. I don't know why Mings was in the England squad, although he did do okay in the games he had, but I just don't trust Mings for a full season. Emi Martinez, very good goalkeeper, did very well last season for Villa, and he got a lot of clean sheets. He was the reason that they finished so high up in the table. Midfield, they've still got John McGinn. They're looking at getting James Ward-Prowse in. There's been rumours. I'm not sure if that's going to go ahead, but I think they will be finished 13th this season. Got in Ings, who was very vital for Southampton. Very good striking option. Now they've got Ings and Ollie Watkins. Whether they shift Ollie Watkins back a bit and play Ings as the main striker, play two strikers up top, or just rotate between the two. They have got good striking options, but without Jack Grealish, I can't see them doing better than last season. So I've got Villa in 13th. Into 12th now, and it's a team that created so many chances last season, but just didn't have the clinical striker to take them. It's Brighton. Now, you may be wondering, why have you got Brighton so high? They still don't have a striker. And that's true, they still haven't signed a striker, but they've got positive recruitment at the club, and they've just got all that Ben White money in. So I'm sure by the end of the transfer window, they'll have a striker in that's clinical enough and that's going to take them that little step further to Premier League safety, and they're not going to have to worry about being near the relegation zone at all. Now, Tariq Lamptey, he was brilliant at the start of last season, got injured, didn't see him again. He should be back soon, which is going to be really exciting because it was so good seeing him run up and down that flank, get into attacking positions, score goals, get assists. He was great. In the midfield, they've signed Enoch Mwepu from Salzburg. Looks like a very good young midfielder. And paired up to Yves Bissouma, who a lot of Brighton fans are probably surprised he's still on the books. But if they can keep hold of Bissouma this season, with Mwepu, they will be a very difficult midfield to get past. And to top it all off, the manager, Graham Potter. I love watching his football. I think he's a very good manager, and I think he is one of the best up-and-coming, if not the best up-and-coming English managers in the game. Into 11th, just missing out on the top half of the table, but I'm pretty sure they'll take it. It's Crystal Palace for me. Now, I feel like a lot of people are going to think they'll finish a lot lower because Patrick Vieira, he's not proven in the Premier League as a manager. And I do get it. For Nice, he was okay. He didn't do anything exceptional. But I think he's going to do a good job. Just because 11 players were out of contract at the end of June. He's had to have a massive squad overhaul. But it looks like they're going from an ageing squad to a young, talented squad, which it works out a lot of the time. They've just signed Michael Elise right at the start of the transfer window, getting their business done early. For less than 10 million, he was Young Championship Player of the Season last season. That is an absolute steal. Less than 10 million. I can't believe that they managed to pull that off. And that was just the start of the positive recruitment. They've brought in two centre-backs. Joachim Andersen, who was at Fulham last season on loan. He was a very good player for Fulham, even though they got relegated. And when he came in, they looked a lot stronger defensively. Mark Gurhey was very good for Swansea. Ultimately, they lost in the playoff finals, but for the two playoff semi-finals against Barnsley, he got man of the match in both of them. So there are two very good young players that they've brought in there. In attack, Zaha, Elise, Iberieze when he's back, who was good last season again. They've got a very young, talented team to add to that attack. They've got Benteke, who had a massive purple patch at the end of last season. He could not stop scoring. And I think there's something going on at Palace where all these young players are going to start playing and they're just going to be really hungry and want to prove themselves. And I think it's going to work out very well. Now, midfield, they've signed Conor Gallagher, who was good at West Brom last season on loan. I'm not sure that he's experienced enough. I feel like in the centre of the midfield, they might need a bit more of an experienced defensive mid. So I think they might be looking at getting one. If they do get one in, I can see them possibly finishing in the top 10. But for now, I've got Crystal Palace in 11th. Into 10th, and it's the Premier League's overachievers from last season, West Ham. Now, the reason I'm putting them 10th, I think if they didn't have the European commitments, they could possibly finish a bit higher. but I think they will want to do well in Europe so that their fans can have a little tour around Europe, and they will want to win that competition. So I think West Ham in 10th is probably a fair reflection considering how many games they're going to have to play. In attack, they've got Mikel Antonio, and he's really the only senior striker. So if he gets injured, they might struggle considering how many games they're going to have to play. But at the other end of the pitch, they've signed Areola on loan, good player, did well for Fulham last season, and Fabianski is ageing, so Areola's a pretty good replacement for him, I'd say. They've got Souček and Royce in the midfield, two very good defensive mids, and that's going to be a very good partnership again this season. They'll want to add Lingard in front of that, but I'm not sure they'll be able to get him off Man United, which is a shame because he was so good for them last season. But I don't think it's too much to worry about, as Jared Bowen and Benrahma, I can see them both being very, very pivotal this season to West Ham, especially with the amount of games they've got to play. And then they've got other players like Yarmolenko, who can play a bit part, maybe playing in the Europa League. But altogether, I think West Ham, they will be able to finish in the top half. I've got them in 10th. Into 9th, and it's a team that have a new manager that has been at 3 other Premier League clubs, including their rivals. It's Everton under Rafa Benitez. Now, that seems so strange to say, as he was on the opposite side of Merseyside and he was loved and cherished by the Liverpool fans. But I think he'll be good with Everton, and although the fans might not back him at first, I think he'll be able to get them on side, as he knows the league so well and he knows how to work on a budget. Everton, as far as I'm aware, they've only spent about £2 million this transfer window, which probably isn't the backing that Benitez wanted, but he has got a very good core to the squad. He's got Ben Godfrey in defence, who is only going to get better. He's so young, and he is a good young centre-back. In the midfield, he's got Allen and Decore, who are 2 midfield generals. They'll be great in there, and they'll be very hard to get past. And then up front, they've got Calvert-Lewin and they've got Richarlison playing just off him. They were great last season. Richarlison, he's just won Olympic gold with Brazil. Congratulations to him. I'm pretty sure he'll be over the moon with it, and he'll be loving getting back to Everton and helping them get higher up the league. And he'll be very hungry to do that. So I can see Everton finishing 9th. Into 8th place, and it's one of the so-called Big Six. I've got Tottenham. Now, I think they've got Harry Kane, they've got Son, but I'm not sure if Kane's going to stay, and I definitely know that he doesn't want to. There's so much uncertainty around him. I think if he stays, he's still not going to be very beneficial for them, and if he leaves, they've lost him, so that's not beneficial either. I think it's a pretty lose-lose situation for Tottenham. They've got Heung-min Son, as I say. If Kane leaves, he could operate as a striker. He did that at Bayer Leverkusen before he signed for Spurs, and he was good there. That's why they signed him. But I'm sure after being at left mid this whole time, maybe he'll struggle to adapt back to striker. I don't know. They've got Nuno in from Wolves. He was a good manager at Wolves. Is he a bit out of his depth at Spurs? I'm not so sure, but I don't think he's going to be too confident in himself, considering he knows he wasn't first choice. They were linked to Antonio Conte, Max Allegri, and that was all before Nuno got there, and the only reason he's there is because other managers rejected. They have signed a very good young centre-back. He was brilliant in the Serie A last season, Christian Romero. He is very young still, and from what I've heard from some Serie A fans, they were saying he was the best centre-back in the league last season. So I'm expecting promising things of him. And Alderweireld's gone. Vertonghen went a few seasons ago. So that era of Spurs defenders is sort of over. They were formidable together, but that's over, and it's a bit of a transitional period for them. They've brought in a winger, Brian Gill from Sevilla. Again, only 20 years old. Just played at the Olympics and won silver with Spain. Another good young promising player. So it looks like their transfer policy is pretty good. They've also got Ndombele, who was there last season. Wasn't favoured too much, but I think he might he might improve this season. You might see better out of him now that he's not under Mourinho. And I think Spurs, the only reason they are this low is because of the uncertainty around Harry Kane. I think if he was definitely going to stay and he wanted to be there, I could potentially see them as high as 5th. But I've got them in 8th because no one knows if Harry Kane's going to stay. So 8th place. In 7th, and it's a team that might surprise people, as they only spent their first season back in the Premier League last season, but it's Leeds. Now, I don't think they'll suffer with second season syndrome like Sheffield United did, and it's because of one man, Marcelo Bielsa. Such a good manager, got such an interesting attacking style of football, and it's so good to watch. Patrick Bamford last season proved all the doubters wrong, as he netted so many goals, and I think he was quite unlucky to miss out on the England Euro squad. I think he'll carry on in pretty good form. Rafinha on the wing, they signed him last season. He was brilliant for them. I saw start of the transfer window, he was linked a bit with Liverpool. I'm not sure if those rumours were true, but it looks like Rafinha's going to stay this season as well. That's another good player that they've got. And they've brought in Junior Firpo from Barcelona for Alioski, who left. And I think that's another good signing, because Firpo, he must want to play under Bielsa. He must like playing that style of football, or Bielsa wouldn't have him and Firpo wouldn't bother going. So I think, again, that's another good signing. They've brought in Jack Harrison permanently. He was on loan. He knows exactly what's expected of him. Bielsa must like him. That, again, another good signing. And they just look like they're building a good team. So I've got Leeds breaking into possibly a Europa League spot depending on what happens, but definitely a Europa Conference League spot in 7th. Into the top 6 now, and starting off with 6th place, I've got Arsenal. Now, they're under Arteta, and a lot of people aren't too sure about Arteta. I think the general consensus around Arsenal fans is they want him out. But I think with no European football this season, they might be a bit better off without it. They've signed Ben White, who is a ball-playing defender. He's what Arteta would want, because he loves playing out from the back. They've brought in Lokonga, who is a midfielder that they've signed from Anderlecht. From what I've heard, he's very highly rated, brilliant young midfielder, and he's definitely going to be one to watch this season. And they've also brought in Nuno Tavares as a left-back. They have got Tierney at left-back, so I'm not too sure if he's going to be a backup or they're going to change the system and maybe play Tierney in as a third centre-back. But I'm pretty sure it'll be good because, again, he's a young player. They're bringing in young players, and a lot of teams seem to be going for young players now because there's so much potential there. You can sort of mould the players, so I'm pretty sure that'll work out fine. They've got Pepe, who were towards the end of last season, he really was carrying Arsenal on his back. He could not stop scoring. He was in great form, and I feel like he's going to carry on that form this season. A player for Arsenal that we do need to talk about is Aubameyang, as he was great for them in every season, but last season he really slipped off the mark. And there is a big question mark over whether he can get his form back or not. If he does, I think they could potentially finish higher, maybe get 5th. I don't think they'll be breaking into the top 4, but I think it'll be 5th or 6th for Arsenal, but I've got them in 6th. Into 5th place, and it's quite a familiar position to this team as they're used to missing out on Champions League football, it's Leicester. I think they're going to finish as best of the rest again, and I don't think they'll break into the top 4 as the top 4 are too strong. They've brought in Boubakary Soumaré in midfield. Him, on top of Ndidi and Tielemans, great midfield. They've got Harvey Barnes back from injury. They've got James Maddison at the moment. Whether he goes to Arsenal, I'm not so sure. But they've still got him. Defensively, they've got some issues. Wesley Fofana was injured in a friendly the other day against Villarreal. He's possibly out until the new year. He adds on to James Justin, Timothy Castagna and Johnny Evans, all injured. At the other end of the pitch, strikers, Jamie Vardy and Iheanacho, they've brought in Patson Daka from Salzburg. Looks like a great signing. Saw him in a friendly the other day and he was very quick, playing on the last shoulder. looks like a young Jamie Vardy, so that'll be a great signing. But I think they will just miss out on top 4 this season, so I've got them in 5th. Moving into the top 4, and in 4th place, I've got Liverpool. They've signed one player of note, and it's Ibrahima Konate. Good centre-back from Leipzig, young, quick. I'm pretty sure he'll do a good job there, and after the centre-back injury crisis they had last season, they'll be glad that they've got another centre-back on the books. Van Dijk is coming back from a career-changing injury, which a lot of players that come back from it aren't the same again. So we may not see Van Dijk back to his best. They've lost Wijnaldum on a free, which was quite a big thing, as they could have just offered him the contract he wanted, but they didn't, and he left. There's bad business from FSG, and that's quite bad for Klopp, as they've got 3 centre-mids left: Henderson, Thiago and Fabinho. Now they have got Naby Keita and Oxlade-Chamberlain, but if they want to be winning the league, I don't think those players are good enough. So with those 3 centre-mids, Henderson is becoming a bit more injury prone. So do they have enough depth? Do they have a good enough midfield depth? I don't think they do. The front 3, Mane, Salah and Firmino. Only one of them really performed last season and stayed consistent, and it was Salah. Jota, they signed from Wolves. He was good for them, very good, but he got injured and he didn't look the same after that injury. And I'm a bit worried that they don't have the depth in attack or midfield to really mount a proper push and get any higher than 4th. So the top 3 for me are a lot further ahead than Liverpool. Liverpool might be going into a bit of a transitional period now, an end of the cycle for this team. So the highest I can see them finishing is 4th. Into 3rd place, and I've got Manchester United. 3 positions they needed: a right mid, a centre-back and a defensive mid. They've brought in a right mid. They've brought in Jadon Sancho, who was brilliant in the Bundesliga last season, and I'm sure he'll be brilliant this season, and as he's young, exciting and skillful. Centre-back, the arrival of Rafa Varane is imminent, and that is an absolutely brilliant signing, as he's a serial winner and he's exactly what they need. Pairing him with Maguire, Luke Shaw and Wan-Bissaka on either wing-back flank, that is a brilliant defence. I'm sure they won't be conceding many goals this season. Attackingly, they've got Cavani, Martial, Greenwood, Rashford, Fernandes, Pogba if he wants to play a bit more advanced, Sancho. So many brilliant attacking players. They can rotate. I think they will go quite far in the Champions League this season as well, as they've just got so many attacking options. But the one issue is defensive mid. They've got McTominay and Fred, and for me, they're not good enough. So if Man U really want to put together a title challenge, they need to sign a defensive mid. I think that's all they are away from it, so I've got them in 3rd place. Moving into the top 2, and I've got 2 teams left, Chelsea and Man City. And for me, the team that's finishing 2nd is Man City. This might come as a surprise, as they've just spent 100 million on Jack Grealish, but I think with what I've heard they're planning on doing, Rodri's not going to be too happy, as they're looking at playing Grealish and De Bruyne as 2 centre mids, attacking mids, and leaving Rodri as defensive mid by himself. So he's going to be having to do a lot of work, and I think it's going to cause a bit of a drop-off in their defence, as they're just going to be so focused on attacking that whenever a teams get the ball, there's one less player there to tackle. With Grealish, I'm not too sure they particularly needed him, as they've got so many good attacking players, and it's a bit of an issue in this squad, because Gundogan was brilliant last season, had the season of his life, and if they're planning to play Grealish there, then Gundogan misses out. If they're planning to play Grealish on the left wing, Foden, Sterling, one of them miss out. There's too many attacking players in this squad, and although having a lot of options is good, I think it's going to cause a bit of a negative atmosphere around the Man City camp, because I've already heard that Bernardo Silva's not happy, he wants to move, he's hoping Barcelona come calling for him. I'm not too sure that's going to happen, as Barcelona are in a lot of trouble at the moment. But I just think they have too many attacking players, and that's going to be their downfall. With Chelsea, Thomas Tuchel seems to have Guardiola's number. He beat Guardiola 3 times last season, and that's not very good for Guardiola at all, and it could leave him feeling not too confident this season, especially after losing that Champions League final. So in second place, I've got Man City. So that means the team in first is Chelsea. They were missing one thing last season, and it was a goal scorer. Jorginho was their top goal scorer in the league last season, and it really seems like Lukaku could be the missing piece in the jigsaw puzzle. Havertz, I think he'll announce himself onto the stage this season, especially after scoring that Champions League winner. He's going to be full of confidence, and towards the end of last season, you could really see he was sort of becoming the player everyone expected him to be. They're linked with Jules Koundé, who would be a very good defender to bring in, especially with already having Thiago Silva. Rudiger was brilliant last season. Christensen was great when he was needed and stepped in. They have let go of Tomori, which I'm quite disappointed about because he was a good young centre-back and was brilliant on loan at AC Milan last season. But Jules Koundé would really take them that step further. They've got so much depth in this squad, attackingly. They've got Ziyech, Pulisic, Werner, Lukaku when he's announced, Havertz, Mount. There's just so many players there, and they're all interchangeable in the system that Tuchel plays. Goalkeepers, they've got Mendy, who was great last season, Kepa, who hasn't had the greatest time, but saved 2 penalties in the Super Cup the other night, which might fill him with confidence, push him on a bit of a charge. And the whole thing around this Chelsea side that I'm seeing, after that Champions League victory, they are going to be hungry. They really are going to want to win this Premier League now. And I think this could be their time to sort of push on and win the league with this sort of new crop of players that haven't won the league before. That's why I'm going for Chelsea to win the league. Might be a bit surprising, but I think it's going to happen. And that is it. So I've got Burnley, Watford and Norwich all getting relegated. Chelsea winning the league. Man City, Man U and Liverpool in second, third and fourth. Let me know what you think in the comments, whether you agree, whether you disagree. Put your predictions down in the comments. Please like the video, share with your friends, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more Premier League and Championship content. I can't wait for the season to start and I hope you enjoy.